Now we're going to disassemble the main back frame so that we can sand and polish each of the individual framing members. There are 6 rivets along the inside across the top, one in that corner, one on each side of this piece here. I removed some of the old hardened butyl window glazing tape. There's 2 over here on either side, and one in this corner, then same along the bottom. And then there's rivets, 4 rivets in each of the 4 corners. So we're going to remove those and then clean these things up. One thing I forgot to point out was there are 4 L brackets that hold these vertical framing members in place, along with the two rivets, one on each side, that hold it to the top frame. There's an L bracket underneath right here. So I removed the rivet that attaches the L bracket to this top horizontal framing member, and I'm going to leave the 2 rivets in place that attach the L bracket to this vertical framing member. Same with this lower corner, and then on the other side here, they're on the opposite side that faces the movable windows. You can see an L bracket there, and another one down in this corner here. The other thing to pay attention to is the top framing member, as well as the bottom horizontal member. They sit on top of these vertical left and right framing members. So here you can see the overlap. It also has the same overlap here. So this piece sits on top of the vertical piece. Same along the bottom. You can see that this horizontal piece sits on top of the vertical piece. Same in this corner. So document that, pay attention to that for when you rebuild it. This old butyl window glazing is extremely hard and crusted. It may have even been glued down, so it's really stuck to the frame here. Some areas are really hard to chisel up. So what I tried was using a heat gun on the high setting. Gonna hit this. Aluminum gets hot all the way through really quickly. So I probably should be wearing gloves here, but you see the difference. Peel that up. I probably could have hit it a little bit longer, but that was actually pretty effective. Now I'm going to assemble what I'm calling the main back frame, which is the top and bottom flanges, left and right flanges, and then these center vertical support bars. So I'm going to be putting the rivets in from the head of the rivet from the inside of the trailer. So I'm going to flip everything over, and then I'm going to install clecos, because this is kind of unwieldy to try to deal with everything. So I'm flipping everything over so it goes upside down, at least the top flange, bottom flange, and these center vertical framing support members. So it's basically going to be like that. Again, this is the inside of the window. It's upside down now, so this is the top. And just to confirm, this points up toward the top, because this lip here accepts the window retainer, the glass retainer clip for this stationary window in the center. This is why I label all my parts and pieces with permanent marker in a inconspicuous area, so that when you put it all back together, you're not entirely confused. So I'll install the Clecos next. There's something satisfying about using these Clecos. It's kind of an ingenious way to hold your parts together as you rivet them, because I don't know how I would do this part without them. It'd be really difficult to try to prop everything up. So now that I have those in place, I guess I could have left one out. I'll install one rivet at a time, starting here. I'm using the number 6 rivets from Hansen Rivet. This 6 here indicates the length, 6/32 of an inch. Again, aluminum semi-tubular rivets, 1/8 inch diameter. I think the easiest way to do this is to stand this up like I've done here and rest it against my chest. I've removed one Cleco. Try to get this squeezer in here. Center the rivet head as best I can. That looks pretty good. This side's a little bit tighter, so I need to pull the tool up into a vertical position more. I think on this one I'm going to need to switch the roll die and the head die, switch them from top to bottom, and then I'm going to come in from this side so I have more clearance. I'm just going to pop these out. Switch the head die to the bottom and the roll die to the top of the yoke. So now I can squeeze from this direction. Because this side had a bigger opening, so I was able to get the tool in the other way. This side's a little bit more tight where the glass retainer clip goes. So I'm just going to work my way around. Okay, now I can flip this over. Okay, that's 8 rivets to hold these vertical framing members in place. Again, this is where the stationary glass goes. This is the inside of the window. Just double checking to make sure everything got squeezed all the way, which they did. And now I need to put a rivet in. Here's the, if you remember, here's the L bracket that's mounted with 2 rivets to these vertical framing members here. One rivet goes through here into this top flange and down here as well into the bottom flange. On the back side there's a slotted opening right here. And on this side it's just a round hole. I'm taking a pause in the video here to say that the next 6 or 7 minutes of video I decided to leave in. It's when I was installing rivets in the 2 center support framing members where those little L brackets get installed into the top and bottom rails of the frame. I struggled quite a bit and came up with a solution, but I thought it would be helpful for you all to see what I had to deal with. In hindsight, I could have saved a lot of time and frustration by just using pop rivets to install those L brackets to the top and bottom rails. You could install them from the outside of the frame so that the blind part of the rivet is inside the frame. They won't be seen and they won't be in the way. Again, I'm using number 6 rivets to secure these L brackets into the top and bottom flanges for both of these vertical supports. I think I should have gone with 7 32 inch long rivets. These just seem a little bit short. I think they'll work just fine, but I could get a little bit of additional clinch length. I have number 8s, but they're just a little bit too long. So I'm going to continue going with these number 6s. I may have to switch to the other rivet squeezer because I don't know if I can get this one in here. You can see here that I need to be able to span the width of this flange, which is about maybe an inch, inch and a quarter. And the height of this, the spacing of this yoke is only an inch and a quarter. So with the squeezer dies, there's just no way to get this around there. So I'm hoping that the Hansen squeezer will work. I'll need to adjust this one for everything. I think I'm going to put the head die on the inside and the roll die on the back. It doesn't really matter. It won't be seen, but if it ever needs drilled out, it'll be easier to drill it out that way, I guess. Hopefully I will not be the one drilling it out. Just rotate this shaft. You can see it lets you fine-tune the amount of squeeze that you get. If you squeeze it and it's not enough, you can always adjust it and then re-squeeze it, or vice versa. You can back it off a little bit if you need to. So this yoke, you can see, is 2 inches by 2 inches, so I have plenty of room to get around this flange. The question is, will this squeezer work here? So I'm going to try to just go in from the end. It seems easier to me this way. Now the tool's there. Of course, I forgot to put my rivet in place, so I'm going to back that off so I don't scratch everything up. These rivets are tiny and hard to get into back here, so I'm going to use these needle nose to help me get it in place. Gonna work. It just seems too tight right there. The reason it's too tight is that this part of the yoke, I'll call this the nose of the top part of the yoke, sticks out an extra almost 1/8 of an inch from the squeezer die. You can see what I did on my other squeezer tool for my jalousie windows. I actually ground this down. I ground this down with just angle grinder, or my angle die grinder, and so that it didn't hurt the tool at all, doesn't affect the function of it, but allows me to get into a tighter space. So I may actually be able to use this squeezer. Switch out the dies again. Now that I saw how I got the other one in there, I think I might be able to make this work. Let's see. No, maybe not. Nope, it's not gonna work. So what I might do is I might grind this down and see if that helps. Okay, actually I went ahead and tried to squeeze that with this one, even though it was at an angle, and it was able to squeeze it actually very well. So I think these aluminum rivets are just a lot softer than the stainless steel ones I was working with before on the jealousy windows. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this one in here, the bottom. Same thing, I'm gonna bring my squeezer tool around this way. What I don't like is that the rolled end of this, you probably can't see this, but the rolled end of this rivet is actually kind of sitting sideways in that slotted hole. I'd have to put a washer in there and use the number 8 rivet to get that to work out a little bit better. So I might see if I have small enough washers, but I don't think I do. So I mentioned the rivet where the slot was kind of diving down into the edge of the slot. I didn't like that, so I went and picked up an M5 sized washer that just fits over the diameter of this 1/8 inch rivet. Actually, sorry, not M5, M3. That's the washer I got at Home Depot. I put some primer on it just to keep the zinc from reacting to the aluminum, although that's probably overkill. So I'll squeeze that around it and it'll provide a tighter fit. This is where I recommend just using a pop rivet. If you put the head of the rivet right here where this washer is shown, you can even use a washer if you need to. It should work just fine and you'll be good to go. Okay, now that I've got the center vertical supports completed, I'm going to rivet the right and left flanges. I had to flip this over because I didn't flip it over and I had the wrong side over here. I had the left side over here, and the telltale sign of that was that the rivets didn't line up. So again, just keep double checking the labeling of your parts, because you move these things around and you get disoriented and you forget where you're at. So I've got the top of the window is here. This here is labeled right side, arrow pointing up toward the top. I'm going to use number 4 rivets on these corners here, and then on the inside corners. For the outside rivets, the head of the rivet's going to be on top of the flange, because you'll see that from the outside. And then I'll flip the window frame over to rivet these so that the head of the rivet is underneath, because that's what you'll see from the inside of the trailer. I'm kind of squeezing this together because this frame tends to want to sit out a little bit. So I'm going to pull it in as I squeeze this rivet. flip the frame over. Might be better off with this upside down. I can hold my rivet squeezer vertically above. I'm going to try that out. This next one. Make sure the head of the rivet's down on the front side, or the inside part of the window. Actually, that's not going to work because this part of the rivet squeezer is going to run into the frame right there. So, like I said, you got to keep trying different positions, see what works best. Just going to have to hold this up really high like I did on the last one. I'll probably be out of the camera for a minute. Once I get down here. Just gonna check those, make sure the rivets are tightly squeezed on the back side. And they look good. So I'll do the other end and not bore you with recording that part. Now we need to install these thin strips. These were along the bottom here and the top of the main back frame. And these are what the glass retainer clips hook into. There's a lip here, there's a lip under the edge of these two side pieces, and so the glass retainer clips, after you put your glass in, the glass retainer clips slide up in here and kind of clip in place. And so I had taken these out because I wanted to be able to sand this up and polish them a little bit and clean up this bottom edge. There was quite a bit of gunk and corrosion in there, so they were not sealed previously, but in my mind, with only 3 rivets in here, theoretically water could get inside here and get to the inside of the window frame. So I'm going to go ahead and put a bead of this Trem Glaze U1600. Again, you can get this at Vintage Trailer Supply. It'd probably be named something different, but it's a polyurethane sealant. This is gray. It's UV resistant, flexible, excuse me, flexible, and adheres well to aluminum. So I'm going to put a bead across the back of this clip, hopefully avoid ooze out, but I put a piece of painter's tape here just in case I do get some ooze out. Hopefully that's enough. We'll see when I put it on here if I feel like it's getting where it needs to be. I might put it this way and angle it down a little bit. Let it smush downward. I think that's going to do it. I'm going to put I'm using a number 5 rivets, at 5 32 inch long semi-tubular rivets. I'll move this one out of the way. reverse these dies. Put the head die on the bottom in this case, the roll die on the top. I did not squeeze that very tight because this part of this clip, I don't know if you can see this, but there's an angle to it. It kind of comes this direction, so I didn't want to squeeze this all the way flat, although I think there's a dimple in here that allows for that. I'm getting some squeeze out of the sealant, so I think that's good. I'll be able to clean that up. It'll provide a nice watertight seal there. Holding these rivets in is half the battle, so you can get into a position where you can squeeze them. The original windows had, right in this location, had flush head buck type rivets, but these semi-tubular rivets work just fine. I don't have the right tools to use the buck rivets anyways. So now I'm going to take my paper towel, try to carefully clean off some of this excess before I take the tape off. I was hoping it wouldn't ooze out quite that much. I was hoping to keep the sealant hidden, which I'm going to actually try to scrape it out with this toothpick. Just get it out of there so it's not visible. I should be able to clean this off with the aluminum if it's on there with some acetone or something afterwards, after it dries up. But the tape kept it off the flange here, so it's going to be very minimal cleanup needed. I'm going to go ahead and peel that up. Next is the top side, and then this main frame is completely together. When I disassembled the windows, I decided to take these thin aluminum glass retainer clip receiver pieces, I'll call them, because these pieces with this lip right here, these receive the glass retainer clip around to make up the perimeter of this stationary window in the middle. I've already installed the bottom piece, and I'm going to install the top. There's just 3 rivets here. They used flush head buck rivets mounted from the back side of the flange. I'm going to use semi-tubular because that's what I have, and these are out of sight and out of the way of anything anyways. There was no sealant in here originally, but when I look at this, I can see, water penetrating through the gap here and potentially getting to the inside of the window, inside the trailer. So I'm going to put a bead of sealant. I'm using, again, this Tremco Trem Glaze U1600. It's a polyurethane sealant, UV resistant, flexible, and adheres very well to aluminum. Vintage Trailer Supply sells this. They may have rebranded the name of what they call this, but it's essentially the same product by Tremco. So I'm going to put a bead of sealant on this top edge here. About 1/8 of an inch below the top edge. A little bit will ooze out. It's hard to get a consistent distance here, freehanding it, but that's why I have the tape there, so any ooze out will be caught by the tape. I can also, another alternative to doing it this way is to put some sealant along the bottom edge and the side edges after the fact. That would also prevent any water from coming through to the inside of the window. I figured to hit it where it wants to start on the top edge. I may still do the inside edge for double protection. It's not going to hurt anything, and I don't ever plan on taking this window apart. So I'm trying to angle this from the top down so so some of the squeeze out goes downward instead of up. I'm gonna take these number 5. These are the 5 32 inch long semi-tubular rivets. Pop them in through the back. And as always, they tend to want to fall out very easily. Go to the second one, same drill. Pop that through. Hey, who goes there? What's up?
How's it going?
Good.
We just went to the river today.
You what? You went to the river?
We just went to the river.
Cool. Now that all 3 rivets are in, I'm just going to clean up the sealant with a toothpick, get any excess out before I pull this tape off. I can clean up any residual with some acetone later on or something like that. Mineral spirits should work. Watch for the goop on the sealant, because you get it on your fingers and then you start smearing it all over your shiny aluminum. I also added sealant inside the frame to each of the 12 corners. As you can see here by the green arrows, pretty much anywhere I felt water could penetrate into some of the seams of the metal, I decided to seal.